All right, Marina, it's time to review a movie I thought I already reviewed. Hold on, this looks crooked. Hold on. Let me try to get it set up right. Enter. All right. So yeah, the movie we were reviewing that I thought I already reviewed is House of Wax, and yeah, this came out back in 2005. I was depending on when in 2005, I was either a junior or senior at high school. It came out in early 2005. I was a junior. If it was late 2005, I was a senior. People like to open their doors when it's middle of a fucking video. Okay, so House of Wax. Right off, a lot of people like to shit on this movie because Paris Hilton's in it, so it sucks. No. She's one small part of this movie. Like, she's in this movie, she gets killed later. She's a small part of this movie. She's one part of the whole movie. One little thing like her, can't remember. Well, if she was a bad actress, she's not terrible, but she's okay. For her part that calls for her, she's fine. Alright? So, yeah, I like this movie, man. I've always liked this movie. I think it's one of the underrated remakes. And it's a remake in name only. It has nothing to do with the Vincent Price classic from the 1950s, where it's about this man who ends up, he has a wax face, even though he's able to move his face the entire movie, but it ends up being made of wax because he was disfigured in a wax accident or deliberately done. I don't know. I've never seen the movie, but this one is different. Although there's one connection. One of the brothers in this is named Vincent. So, yeah, let's sit down and talk about this movie. All right, so right off, I want to talk about the cast of this movie, okay? Because this cast is probably one of the most recognizable casts in a horror movie. Like, this was around the time, in the late 90s, early 2000s. They had those movies, they get a bunch of stars, they put them on the cover, like with Scream or The Faculty or Phantoms, which, by the way, Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. Movies like that, Soul Survivors, and even Mimic was another one. I had those movies, and I don't know if we'll get to them in October, but yeah. This one doesn't have all that, but it has the recognizable cast. They've all been, like, the main 5 characters have all been in something that I have watched or know about. And so I'm going to start off. You have Chad Michael Murray, who was in One Tree Hill. It's the only season I have of this. I had season 4, and then I didn't take care of it, so. Tree Hill. You have Alicia Cuthbert, who I know from Are You Afraid of the Dark and The Girl Next Door, as well as 24. Jared Padalecki, who is in the Friday the 13th reboot. That's 2 remakes he's in. Plus, Supernatural, of course. What I know him the most from. John Abrams, who was the yelling boy, whatever he's called, in The Faculty. But also, he was in Scary Movie. You have Robert Richard, who plays Blake. I didn't do the other names, I'll get to him later. He's from Cousin Skeeter. And then, of course, Paris Hilton, who is Paris Hilton. No explanation needed. And they play these 5 young 20-something-year-olds, I'm assuming. They have alcohol, although, I guess the purchase, I don't know. And I know this is a nitpick, but they say that the 2 siblings, Nick and Carly, are twins. They're actually 3 years apart. I know, it's like, it's a movie, they're actors. But it always bugs me when they say, they're twins, but they're not the same age. It always gets me. The closest thing that I've seen is the Thundermans, where the actors who played twins are only like 1 year apart, maybe even months. It works, but 3 years, about 3 years or so. I think she's 39 and he's like 41. It's 2-3 years. But I digress. So they're on a road trip to go to a football game when they decide to break for the night. This is the plot crunch, by the way. That night they are harassed by someone. The next day, Wade, that's Jared Padalecki's character, finds that his car's fan belt has been cut. So they have to find a way, find somewhere to go. They're just going to go to the football game without him. And then by happenstance, when Carly happens to fall, literally fall into a pit of dead animal carcasses, they meet the redneck guy, who I'm just going to call Jethro. I know he has a name. I don't know it. They never say it in the movie, but it's on Wikipedia and I didn't look it up. So I'm going to call him Jethro just because it fits, I guess. It's a redneck stereotypical name. So sorry if I offend any rednecks, but I'm going to call him Jethro because I think it's better than just calling him redneck guy. So we'll call him Jethro. So Jethro says, oh, I can take you to Ambrose. Not Dean Ambrose, but Ambrose is the nearest city. I'll take you there. You can get a new fan belt there. So he goes there. And so he takes them there. And then this is where the chaos and the killing and the dead people happen. So, yeah. So first and foremost, we start off with Exposition Mania as we find out that Carly wants to move to the big city. Wade does not. Carly is at least a Cuthbert. Wade is Jared Padalecki. Okay. Her brother Nick is coming along for this football game, and Nick is played by Chad Michael Murray. He's recently got out of jail for Grand Theft Auto, but his last name is not Versetti, so I don't know why. And he's all acting tough, and Chad Michael Murray's fine at acting tough. He's fine. Then you have John Abrams, who plays Dalton, whose character trait is carrying around a camera, and then when he doesn't have the camera, he's really not useful anymore, but he carries around the camera, filming people even if they say not to. Yeah. And then you have Blake, played by Robert Bouchard, who's obsessed with his car and having sex with Paris Hilton. Well, that last one, I can't blame you. But Paris Hilton plays the character whose name I forget because it's just Paris Hilton. And so, yeah, they're a couple. And she might be pregnant, which is a plot line that goes fucking nowhere. Really. They talk about it at the beginning here, and she's about to tell her boyfriend about it before he rushes out and then gets killed. So, yeah. He doesn't rush out because she tells him. He rushes out because the music gets turned off, and he needs the music before they get to bumping the groins. But, no. So they get in the cars, and they drive. And they decide, hey, they do a funny gag where, she's going to pick up something, but it looks like she's giving Blake a BJ, but no, not really. It's, she's picking up her chapter, oh yeah, right, and then they decide to stop for the night, and just on the side of the road, they're going to start camping, okay? So it's no surprise when somebody shows up in a pickup truck that no one recognizes, and Nick throws a beer bottle at it, breaking the, first of all, and they do just, leaves. I'm not exactly sure if it was Bo or Vincent driving. We're going to talk about Vincent, because he's a confusing character. There's a cold open to this, I forgot to mention, where there's a family, and there's one kid, there's two kids, one is fine, just doing whatever, and the other kid is out of control. Wild. And you're supposed to believe that Vincent's the one that's out of control, and Bo is actually the nice one, but it's actually the other way around. And they do have parallels with Carly and Nick, which is why they're twins, and the other two are also twins. And they even comment, Nick even says, you're the good twin, and I'm the evil twin. And that kind of parallels, the other ones. We do find out later, I want to point this out now so I don't forget, that Nick actually took the blame for Dalton stealing the car. So he's not that bad after all, I would say. But anyway, so like I said, they go to bed. Someone is filming them. It's Vincent, we find out later, because he ends up stealing the camera. The next day, they wake up 2:30 in the freaking afternoon for some reason, and they find that the fan belt has been cut. Now, what amount of beer and weed did they have to do before I don't even think there was any weed, it's just beer. How much beer did they drink to pass out? Okay, I've gotten drunk, and the latest I've woken up is noon. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying. But yeah, and so they're all, what are you gonna do? And they're like, oh, we'll go to the game and we'll get a fan when we're there and we'll come back and we'll get you. It's like, you're gonna leave him there on the side of a road for how long? By the way, well, only a couple hours. What's left of the game? Are they gonna let you in halfway through the game? You don't even have tickets. You have to get. I don't think you're gonna get into that freaking game. But anyway, they're the night before they said there's some weird smell, and so this morning the smell is back, and Carly goes to check it out. She falls into a pit. It's a bunch of dead carcasses, and we see Jethro, I'm calling him, of course, show up, and like there's a hand sticking out, and it's a mannequin hand, but is it really a mannequin hand, or is it a wax figure hand that they left there? I don't know. It's got to be a fake, because you think they would leave evidence there? They do find out later that, like, at the end they say that this place, the town of Abrams, has been closed for so long, nobody goes out there, nobody cares, which is why they've been able to do what they've been doing. But, so they're like, we got to go get a fan belt, and he's like, well, there's a town about 15 miles from here or something called Ambrose. You can probably get a fan belt there. And he's like, okay. And he's like, well, I can give you a ride. And so they give him a ride, and you got the creepy stereotype, oh, he's got a knife. And it's sort of a red herring that he could be one of the killers, but then at the end they outright say he probably is one. I don't know. It's a setup for a sequel that never happened. We'll get to it. I think it's supposed to be a revenge sequel type dealio. But yeah. So Wade and Carly together decide to go to Ambrose with Jethro to, and then they have to stop. He's like, oh, I can get my treads on, and we'll just walk from here. And they freak out because he's got a big knife and stuff. And so you get there. So here's my conniption, my problem. They go around, they're looking for someone. They go to the gas station, there's no one there. And so they decide, we're going to go in the... they looked around the house of wax, which is literally made of wax. And then they go to the church. They go into there, and they see that there's supposedly some service going on. And the only person that turns around is Bo, who we find out is one of the killers. And so here's my issue. So he knew that at some point they might be on their way here. If everything was a setup, either he or Vincent most likely cut the fan belt. All right. So they sent Jethro ahead to kind of maybe bump into them and say, hey, I can give one of y'all a ride if you need a new fan belt, and take him there. And then, but how did he know specifically when they were going to be there? Is he even standing in the church? How did he know they were going to church? Well, they went everywhere else but the church. It just doesn't make no sense to me. It's never made sense. You're just waiting for him in the church. How do you know they're going to go right there? There's other places. And how do they not figure out, like, here they think that there's real people in there, and then later when they see the wax figures in the wax museum, they're like, wow, they're lifelike. And it's like, yeah, kind of like the ones that were in the freaking church. I did. Anyway, they decide to go to the garage again, and they bring in and they find a fan belt. Not bring in, but it's unlocked. They go in, they find a fan belt that's 6 inches. It needs a 5-inch one. He needs, you're just gonna take that? And he goes, no, I left some money on the counter. Is that enough? Yeah, I do. I got some 5-inch ones up at the house. I would have been like, hey, you know what? No offense. We don't really know you that well. We shouldn't trust you. But I think I'm going to try my luck with the 6. No, because they're stupid horror characters. They go with him to the house without even looking at the vehicle that he's driving to know that it's the one that they threw the beer bottle at. Meanwhile, because they're taking so long, the others decide, we're not going to make the football game anyway. Let's just go ahead and go. But then Blake is like, Hey, he looks at you. I do laugh at this because he looks at both Nick and Dalton. He goes, "Are you two gonna have sex?" Huh? Because I am. So you guys gotta go. You guys go and then come back later with the other two. Okay? So I'm assuming they take his car. Okay? I'm assuming they take his car and they go to the town. And they stop. Yeah. And then they walk there. Okay. So at this point now, Carly and Wade just got to take a piss. Wade goes into the house with Bo as Bo goes to change. And then Wade takes a piss, but then decides to dick around with stuff in a room and gets killed by Vincent. Vincent stabs him in the gut and turns him into a wax figure, which is the only time that someone is actually turned into an entire wax figure. Now, they do it with Dalton later, but Wade's the only one that gets completely turned into a wax figure, so it's kind of weird. Yeah. And then Carly figures out that it's the car. She tries to call them. Blake's not answering because he wants to get down with the Paris Hilton. Blake's not. Did I say Wade? Blake is not answering because he's down with the Paris Hilton. She honks the horn. Wade hears it, and that's when he gets stabbed. But she figures out that it's that it's that vehicle, which I don't know why she didn't notice it before. Locks herself in. The guy comes out, busts the windows open. All this is caught on her phone message as she's calling them, which does absolutely fucking nothing, to be honest with you. Yeah. And so she's held captive by Bo underneath the gas station. Just as the other two show up, Dalton goes around to the House of Wax and finds Wade turned into a wax figure on the piano because he was playing the piano earlier, you see. And it's the first time I ever connected. I always wondered, why did he sit him down by the piano? And I'm like, oh, because he was playing the piano earlier, so yeah, he's sitting down there now. So he was watching. Da, 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 da. And I'll just say this now. Yes, Vincent does look a lot like Tommy Wiseau. Okay? You see him pop in, so, oh, hi, Wade. So anyway, how's your sex life? Haha. I'm just saying. But anyway, yeah. And she's, okay, so here's what I have an issue with. She's down there. Her lips are glued. Right. She tried to put her finger up. He sniffs it while Nico's looking the other way. Here's the problem. You see, you hear how loud that is? I think they would be able to, Nick would be able to hear that. Her lips are shut, but she can still, that's loud, isn't it? And yet, no. Then she has to rip it open and then yell, Nick, help. And it's like, but you could do, and they still hear you. Why is it movies think that when people's, like, I get it, duct tape over the mouth. Yeah, sure. But, like, it's just glued lips. She can still make enough noise to, get him to hear him. There's a scuffle, and then Dalton gets decapitated, I should mention at this point, before this point, by Vincent. And then later, that's fucking stupid. Later, they find him, and he's like, Dalton, I'll get you out of there. He's all waxed up, and then his head pops up. Oh my god. He was already dead. You weren't gonna save him. He was already fucking dead. Maybe his eyes were moving, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he was dead. His head was decapitated. He's gotta be dead. I'm sorry, he was dead. It was Wade's eyes that moved. And then he tries to get the wax and it pushes it. Meanwhile, back at the campground, sort of, Blake and Paris Hilton are finally going to get it on, even though he said, I'm going to have sex, and you guys go. It takes them hours to even get started. They got the music playing. Paris Hilton gets down to her bra and panties because, of course. And then the music stops. And apparently you need music to have sex. So he gets up. He goes out. Like, she's trying to tell him that she's pregnant. She's like, I don't know for sure. But he goes, you know what? No. And let me go. Turn the music back on. He turns the music back on. He notices the phone. And this is where he hears the message from Carly. Before he can even do a fucking thing about it, Vincent comes up and kills him. Stabs him. Dead. Here's another problem. How the hell did Vincent get there? How did he get there? Because they said it's like 15 miles or so between places. So he'd have to have found, like, did he have the truck? Carly smashed the truck. So is there another vehicle? I know they said they had vehicles in the mill or something. I don't know. He must have another vehicle somewhere. He got there, kills him, hunts down Paris Hilton, kills her, and then, we go back to the main action with the rest of these. So, the scuffle with Bo, of course, and Bo gets dead, thanks to Nick. And then it's a fight with Vincent, and she's trying to tell Vincent that he's the good one, and you don't have to listen to him anymore, and then the place gets set on fire, which this is why you don't build your own house of wax, literally out of wax, because it's fucking stupid. It makes no sense, but, how not even work anyway. But they're able to escape from the roof. Vincent dies, falls on top of his brother, so they're back together again. I think they're supposed to be Siamese, but he doesn't have any scars, but Vincent wears a mask for something. I don't know. I try to explain, like, the doctor and Mrs. Sinclair, like, he went nuts, and she died of cancer, and he went nuts and killed himself, something like that. I don't know. We get the wrap-up scene. It's because of the wrap-up scene we know that there's something going to happen. Keep in mind, at this point, they don't know that their other two friends are dead. Or do they find their bodies? I think they do. I think he gets there back fast again. I don't know. The cops tell him, they're like, how can this even happen? And he's like, well, this place has been abandoned for years since the old mill shut down. It was the mill. The old mill shut down. Nobody comes out here anymore, so they just got away with it. Okay, but, like, missing persons, people would say, oh, they were going down this way. Like, oh, hey, you think they'd have to pass down by Ambrose? We should at least check it out. No, nothing. And, okay, so, like, they say, guy walks by with Dalton's camera. Hey, that's my friend's camera. Sorry, it's evidence, son. And they load him up. The sheriff can talk to you. Okay, and they load him up into the ambulance. And then he's just like, a lot of memories on this. Where the fuck did he get that camera? I'm like, you stole it? When? When the fuck did he take that camera? Literally, there is no movement. They're in the back of the ambulance. There's one scene that pans away from them to show the sheriff. They cut back, they show him in the ambulance, and he's got the camera. How the fuck did he get that camera? It makes no sense. But, by the way, I'm pretty sure there's video of this dude stalking your friends, so... And how many tapes did Dalton have? So, I don't know. When we get a radio chatter, that's our cliffhanger for a sequel we never got, where they're like, the doctor and Mrs. Sinclair didn't have 2 boys. They had 3. And then we see Jethro with the dog, and he's like, waving. And that's supposed to signal he is the 3rd one. But I don't know how threatening he is. I know he's got a knife, but he just collects, like, carcasses and stuff. I really don't know what they would have done if there was a sequel. Could he have come out with revenge? Could they reveal that Vincent is still somehow alive? I don't know. All that wax going down the drain, though, is not good for the sewer system, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, this is not bad. I'm actually going to say it's pretty good. I think it's one of the better remakes. I think it's an underrated remake, honestly. I never hear much talk about this movie and top remakes. They always say, like, oh, Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, Halloween. I don't put that in my top remakes. This one is one of my top remakes. I actually really like it. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on House of Wax? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. The next movie we are looking at is also a remake about rats. Until then, thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.